Have you ever felt like time betrayed you? As if the years you gave, the tears you shed, the prayers you sent to heaven were simply lost in the void, as if all that effort, all that faith had been for nothing. But listen closely. Heaven has just spoken, and its word doesn't bring cheap comfort. It brings divine justice. God said, it wasn't a loss, it was an investment. And every investment in the eternal returns multiplied. What seemed finished was only on pause. What seemed destroyed was being repositioned. God just turned back the clock. And when he does, the impossible becomes urgent. And what was going to take years happens in a single day. This message isn't for everyone. It's for those who endured in silence, for those who didn't give up, even when everything inside them screamed to surrender. If you're hearing this, it's no coincidence. It's a sign that restoration has already begun, and get ready, because it won't return the same. It will return with heavenly interest. Right now, before we continue, I invite you to do something spiritual. Tap like if you're ready to receive what belongs to you. Subscribe if you haven't yet, not for the channel, but for your purpose. And comment the number 99, because heaven hasn't forgotten you. It was simply finishing what it started. Are you ready? What comes next will break something inside you to release what was being held back. You thought it was a delay, but heaven called it divine strategy. There were nights when the silence felt suffocating, prayers that echoed back empty, doors that stayed shut, no matter how hard you knocked. And somewhere along the way, you started wondering, did God forget about me? But he didn't, not for a second. Because when God is silent, he's not absent. He's architecting. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. There were places your soul needed to be refined before your promise could arrive. There were people that had to be removed. Battles you didn't even see that heaven was fighting on your behalf. You saw stillness. God saw alignment. You saw delay. God saw a sacred setup, because while you were staring at the closed door, he was crafting a divine entrance that would never need to be forced. Every moment you thought was lost, God recorded every hidden sacrifice, every uncelebrated act of obedience, every yes you whispered when no one was watching. Heaven counted them one by one. And when the time is divine, not chronological, it cannot be rushed, and it cannot be stopped. That's why it took longer than expected. Because this blessing you're about to receive, it's not any blessing. It's the kind that rewrites everything. You see, a rushed miracle can collapse, but a divinely timed miracle becomes a legacy. Now here's the part that many won't understand. You had to be delayed, so that what was meant for you could mature. Some blessings are like fruit. If you pick them too early, they're bitter. But when you wait on God's time, they're sweeter than anything you imagined. And that's where you are now. At the edge of the appointed hour, the calendar couldn't mark it, the clock couldn't predict it. But heaven already circled the date. And guess what? You're standing in it. What you thought was the end was the entrance to the real beginning. So if you're still wondering if it's too late, let me tell you something prophetic. God didn't forget. He was preparing the stage for your comeback, and now he's about to unveil what only delay could produce. But here's the mystery no one warned you about. The delay wasn't just about you being ready. It was about everything else being aligned for you. And now, everything is. But before you see what's next, ask yourself this. What if the very thing you cried over was heaven's way of preparing a miracle you didn't know how to pray for? Hold on to that thought, because in the next few minutes, you're about to find out why the wait was more than worth it. There is something the enemy never calculates. Heaven doesn't just restore. Heaven repays. With interest. When something is stolen in the natural, you lose. When something is stolen in the spiritual, God steps in as judge. And the verdict always includes compensation. That's why you've been feeling this tension in your soul. Because you're not just stepping into a season of restoration, you're stepping into a divine settlement. You didn't just lose a relationship. You lost time, you lost trust, you lost years of dreaming about something that never bloomed. But listen, God saw what they never apologized for. God heard what you never spoke out loud. And while the world moved on, heaven kept the receipts. Nothing was forgotten. Every loss was recorded with fire. Because when you belong to Him, your pain becomes a legal matter in the courts of heaven. Let that sink in. You sowed in sorrow. Now you're about to reap with compound joy. Not because you earned it, but because He promised it. I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. Joel 2:25, but He didn't say the things. He said the years, which means the reward is not limited to what was taken. It's extended to everything you missed during the waiting. Opportunities that died too early. Doors that never opened. Connections that never happened. Joy you pretended to feel. Time you can never get back. Except now, you will. Because God is not bound by linear time. He can compress 10 years of blessing into a single moment. He can make a 24-hour window produce what should have taken a decade. That's heaven's interest rate. It's not 2x, it's not 10x. It's immeasurable. You thought you were praying for restoration, but you were actually positioned for overcompensation. That's why things took so long. That's why the blessing was delayed. Because what's coming needed to be matured in silence. While you were crying in one chapter, heaven was multiplying your next one. You're not getting back the old. You're receiving a new dimension of what was always yours in eternity. So don't look for the return to match the loss. It won't. It will surpass it. Because heaven never returns it the same way it was taken. Heaven adds glory. Heaven adds power. Heaven adds purpose. And maybe you don't see the full picture yet. Maybe it still looks quiet on the outside. But something is moving beneath the surface. Angels are organizing. Connections are being recalibrated. The no's are turning into divine not yets. And every not yet is about to become a now. Here's what the Spirit is whispering even now. I saw the thief. I saw the loss. I saw the night you stopped praying because it hurt too much. And I never forgot. What was stolen is returning with my signature on it. So don't expect a normal blessing. Expect something that stuns you into silence. Something that makes up for everything. With interest. And just when you think God is finished. He'll add something you never asked for, just to remind you. This was always bigger than restoration. And now, before you assume you've heard the most powerful part of this message, let me tell you, heaven is just getting started. In the next few moments, you're going to see why God is about to open doors, without you even touching them. Stay with me. Something supernatural is about to be revealed. You've knocked before, hard, until your knuckles bled in silence, until your voice grew hoarse from asking, and the only answer you got was another delay. But now, something has shifted. You won't need to knock this time, because the doors are no longer locked. In fact, some of them are already opening, not because you forced them, but because heaven has authorized your entrance. You see, when God turns the clock back, He doesn't just give you back what was lost. He unlocks what was previously inaccessible. Some doors require keys, but divine doors. They open by recognition. The door senses your arrival and swings open, not because of your status, but because of your assignment. You've walked in the wilderness long enough. You've obeyed when it felt pointless. You've kept your hands clean while others cheated their way forward, and now, heaven responds. Because there's a moment in every chosen life where favor stops hiding and starts chasing. And when that happens, you don't have to fight for visibility. You become impossible to ignore. People you never called will be sent to you. Rooms you never imagined entering will ask for your presence. Tables you were once denied access to will suddenly make room for your name. Why? Because when heaven restores, God doesn't just fix, He exceeds. He doesn't return you to where you were. He elevates you to where you were meant to be all along. This is more than recovery. This is relocation. You're not just going back to what was lost. You're stepping into places you were never allowed into before. And here's the divine paradox. The doors are opening at the exact moment you stopped chasing them, because your posture shifted. You stopped begging and started believing. You stopped performing and started trusting. And now, without striving, things are coming to you. Resources, connections, opportunities, revelations, not through manipulation, not through compromise, but through divine orchestration. Let me say this prophetically. What you once needed to fight for is now being assigned to you. Because when your identity aligns with your assignment, creation itself begins to respond. There are people waking up right now with your name on their spirit. Contracts being rewritten to include you. Emails being drafted with divine instructions. Phone calls about to be made. Not because you asked, but because heaven whispered your name in the right ear. That's the power of divine restoration. That's the favor that doesn't make sense on paper, but makes history in the spirit. So, if you've been overlooked, if you've been rejected, if you've been the last one in line, get ready, because heaven is moving you to the front. And no one will be able to explain why, not even you. You won't have to fight for the door, because this time, the door is fighting for you. But here's the twist. Before you step through that door, you must understand one more thing. The answers are already on their way, before you even ask the question, and what that truly means will change everything. Don't miss what's coming next. What if I told you the answers are already on their way, before you even know what to ask for? What if the prayer you're about to pray has already been answered in a past conversation in heaven? Because what's coming to you next is not just a response to your request. It's a response to God's memory of your obedience. You're standing at the edge of a supernatural reversal. But this is not just a recovery of what was lost. It's a rewriting of the script. Your story isn't being continued. It's being reconstructed from a divine blueprint that was hidden until now. Why? Because the clock wasn't just turned back to give you more time. It was turned back to undo what wasn't written by God. Every detour, every delay, every heartbreak that wasn't part of His design. He's rewriting it with fire and purpose. You don't need to beg for breakthrough. You don't even need to see the full picture, because God is already ahead of your timeline. He's already standing at the moment you've been praying for, waiting for you to arrive. And when He rewrites time, He rewrites the outcome, which means that diagnosis you were afraid to hear, the healing is already in motion. That bill you don't know how to pay, the provision is already being transferred. That door that was closed last week, a better one is already unlocked. You just haven't seen the hallway yet. This is divine acceleration. It's not a rush. It's not chaos. It's prophetic momentum. You were waiting on God. But now God is waiting on you. To believe. To align. To expect what's never happened before. Because when heaven turns the timeline, miracles arrive before you can even identify the need. It's as if the answers start whispering to you before you ever form the question. That's what happens when favor gets ahead of you. You begin to experience peace before the threat, clarity before the confusion, strategy before the battle, joy before the explanation. And yes, people won't understand it. They'll look at your life and wonder, how are they being blessed without even asking? But they don't see the sacrifices that preceded the spotlight. They don't know the price behind the favor. Because this season isn't about effort. It's about alignment with divine timing. And here's the deeper mystery. The delay wasn't denial. It was divine disruption. a holy interruption to speed up what had to be slowed down to become eternal. God didn't just rewind the clock, He reset the timeline. He made room for miracles that no longer follow human logic. That means some of the things you thought were impossible in 2024 will manifest with ease in 2025. Why? Because the rules of time no longer apply to your calling. When you're walking in divine restoration, time bows, logic bends, and favor becomes your forerunner. And now, here comes the moment you've been sensing but couldn't name. There's something invisible building behind the scenes, a pressure in the spirit, a holy momentum that's too big to be stopped. And in the next minutes, you're going to discover why your story isn't just being restored. It's being redeemed with heaven's seal. Don't blink. The final revelation is coming. Let's pause everything for just one moment. This message, this exact moment in your timeline, was not an accident. You didn't scroll randomly. You didn't stumble onto this by mistake. This word found you. It hunted you down. It cut through distractions, delay, and doubt, just to speak directly to your soul. And the reason is simple. Because heaven has located you. There are moments in time when everything shifts in silence, and you don't realize it until your whole world starts to move in divine rhythm. This is one of those moments. Right now, there are angels in motion, strategically positioned on your behalf. They've been waiting for the command. They've been hovering, watching, listening, for the moment when God would say, "Now, release it all." And guess what? That moment just arrived. This is not poetic. This is prophetic. Your name has been spoken in heaven. Your pain has been weighed on divine scales. And the judgment has been declared, restoration with interest. But even more than that, you're being vindicated. Because while people saw your silence, God saw your sacrifice. They misread your stillness as weakness, but heaven recorded it as warfare. You weren't ignored. You were preserved. You weren't forgotten. You were hidden until the appointed time, and now the countdown is over. Yes, there's a literal countdown in heaven. Moments are marked in eternity. There are days in heaven's calendar that override every earthly delay, and one of those days is called now. You've reached it. This isn't coincidence. It's confirmation. Divine justice has reached your doorstep. And here's something even deeper. This message is not just a confirmation. It's an activation. Because every prophetic word has a sound. And when your spirit recognizes it, something begins to unlock from within. You've felt it while listening, that burn, that inner trembling, that stillness that feels heavy and holy. That's not emotion, that's your spirit, bearing witness that the season has changed. So, no, don't second guess it. Don't minimize what you're feeling. Don't explain it away as inspiration or coincidence. This is exactly what you prayed for. It just arrived wrapped in a voice, a screen, and a moment that felt casual, but was actually eternal. Because here's what you need to understand. When God really wants to reach you, He doesn't shout. He sends a whisper. That echoes in your soul. This message is that whisper. It's heaven's way of telling you, I saw it all. I never left. And I'm still keeping my promise. This is the season where your reward overtakes your waiting. But this isn't just a feel-good word. This is instruction. Because when God sends a sign, He's not just confirming, He's summoning. He's calling you to shift your posture, to prepare like it's already done, to walk like you're already. Wearing the crown, to step like the door is already open, because it is. So breathe deep, still your heart, and listen. Something bigger is about to be said. Something final, something definitive. What's coming next will seal this entire message in your spirit. It's not just a conclusion, it's a divine decree. So don't move. The final word is about to be spoken, and it will change everything. Hear this, not with your ears, but with your spirit. Because these are not just words. This is a divine announcement. The clock has turned in your favor. Time, the very thing you thought you lost, is now under God's command. And He's not just restoring the years, He's collapsing them. What should have taken decades will happen in days. What was stolen will not return empty. It will come back drenched in glory, overflowing with interest from heaven. You are not who you were when the delay began. You are stronger, wiser, refined in the fire, and now undeniable in the spirit. This was never about just getting back what was taken. It was about becoming who you were born to be. So now, stand up on the inside. Lift your expectation, because the verdict from heaven has been released. You will recover. You will be elevated. You will witness miracles that override time itself. In one divine day, heaven can do what 10 years of effort never could. Let that sink in. All the tears, all the silent prayers, all the nights you almost gave up. They weren't wasted. They were seeds. And now, the harvest is ready, with interest, with overflow, with speed. Because when God says, now, nothing can stop what was already written in His eternal script. This is not just a